In this presentation, we will discuss microphones that can be used for a home business. First, a little perspective on myself with relation to microphones. I do have a full-time home business, and therefore I use a microphone a lot to make recordings. I talk to coworkers on microphone, and I make courses with a microphone. So I've used various microphones throughout my business career. However, of course, I make accounting videos. I'm an accountant. So I'm not an expert on the audio items. And every time I look into this, every time I look into another microphone and possibly leveling up my microphone or seeing what I need in different situations, it boggles my mind to see all the different options out there. So there's a lot of different options with regards to the microphone. It kind of depends on what you're doing. So I'll tell you what I used and what I'm doing with it and give you my perspective, and then you can dive into some more information. I'm not actually selling any particular microphone. I will show you my Amazon page, and I might give a link to the Amazon page, which does have affiliate links on it, but that's just where you can see what I use there. So if you don't want to use those affiliate links, that's fine with me. This is just what I've used and some perspective on the microphones from my perspective, and then you can go from there. So the first thing you want to think about is what you're going to be using the microphone for. So are you using the microphone to talk to other people during like a gaming thing or doing like meetings that you're working with other people, or are you going to be using the microphone for set recording type purposes? If you're using the microphone to talk to other people as you're working in a meeting setting, you probably don't need as high a quality of the microphone because you're going to be, as you talk back and forth, you might not need that higher quality. If you're using a microphone that you're recording on, and then you're recording that, then you may want a higher quality microphone at that point. So if you're using a microphone just to talk to somebody else, one of the first microphones I had when I used to teach, and I used this for teaching and just talking to people, is a headset type of microphone. So you could do a headset microphone that would look something like this, or something like this. This is more like what I first started off with, just a headset. I looked for an office type of headset so I can be talking with people. I had a phone over the internet at one time as well, and then we had virtual meetings and whatnot. And then I started using this to record, and it was good as well. Now, when you get into the headsets, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail with the headsets because there's different styles of headsets. So when you start to think about a microphone and a headset, you can do something like an office type of style here, or you could do something that's more like a gaming type of style. The problem with the headset is that now you got kind of two components that you're thinking about. So the amount of variables that you're considering has gone up a lot when you have the headset, because now you're not only talking about the microphone components, but the headphone components. What do you want from the headphones? The gamers are going to want, surround sound headphones and different kind of things, and that's a whole other thing, which again, huge topic that's way bigger than I had thought before looking into it. But if you get like a standard headset that's not even that expensive, you can you could do recordings, and it's good enough to talk to other people generally and do types of recordings. And on that, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail on the different headsets. I don't use them too much at this point in time because I'm usually sitting and just recording now instead of like walking around like I might be with a headset. So I have various kind of microphones. I also, like I say, like to kind of separate the microphone from the headphones. So I typically buy headphones separate from the microphone, because then I can try to think about one thing at a time when I want something from this piece of equipment. When you combine the two things together at one piece of equipment, it's nice and it's convenient. But when you're buying it, it's basically doubly as confusing. But this is a good place to start, and it can help you out with that. Now, note that when you do get a microphone, it's nice to have some type of headset. So you could buy a separate headset. I typically have separate headsets, and I might talk about the headsets I use separately, and then I have a separate mic. If you have speakers or something like that from the computer, it's possible that the speakers will feed into the mic. Now that's you'd have to be fairly close to the speakers or have a sensitive mic for that to be the case. But that could be the case. So just be aware of that. You probably want some type of headsets and then a microphone. If you want the 2-in-1, you could do something in this style. You could do something in a gaming style. And just note that you can get something for like under $100, and then it seems to jump up from there. The price seems to go up a lot. But no matter what you do with the headset, unless you get a really nice headset, the microphone for recording it's probably not as good as even a fairly good recording mic. So if you want to get this like I was doing, I'll say, well, now I'm recording all these things for my classes and I'm making courses with it and whatnot. I'd like to get a better microphone. Maybe I should just concentrate simply on the microphone to do that for the recording. And again, you don't have to, you can use a standard mic and the recordings are okay. But, if you want to step up the level, then my thought, this is my progression. I went from something like this, and I said, I'd like to step up the level of the mic and just see what happens and see if I can get another mic. So now I'm using some kind of cheap headsets, and then I was using a different mic. Now, I talked to a student at that time, and they said you should use these Blue mics, which worked pretty good. And I would call these, in my categorization as a non-professional here, these are what I would think of as USB microphones. In other words, they plug into the port into your computer with a USB. So they're really easy that way, right? You don't have, as opposed to what I would think a higher quality mic, most of them plug in with a cable such as this, an XRL, and you need another input feed in order for it to work properly. Now, I've listened to a bunch of people on different types of mics, and they say, well, the input thing shouldn't matter with the sound quality. It's all about the mic and not the cord and this and that. But, the research I've seen on this, you've got your USB mics, which seem to be on the lower level. You can get a good USB mic, which sounds good. But if you want to level up from something like what I would call a USB type of mic, like this one, to a mic that's the next step up, you're no longer using a USB. The more expensive mics, seems to me, typically have this other kind of interface. So that's kind of a generic category. Again, I'm not a technical expert on this. I'm not sure if the cord is the reason or why they do it. I won't get into all of that, but it seems to me that if you want a simple mic that's going to be a level up from a standard headphone, which is what I wanted when I started to make more instructional videos, I would call it a USB mic. And I think one of the bigger companies that do that is Blue, and Blue has a couple, like two models that are really their main kind of mic. And this is I still use my Blue mic. I have this one as compared to the one I use most of the time. Then I leveled up from that, but this one is, and the quality between this and my current mic, I can hear the difference, but it's not a big difference. This was a good mic. If you're doing recordings and you're making courses or something like that, or you're talking to somebody else, I think this works well. Now, if you use a mic like this, obviously, then you're going to need the headset on it as well, or you can have the speakers. But just remember, if you have a speaker, you're going to have the audio feed, and the speakers are a whole nother thing. You got to buy really cheap speakers or expensive speakers, and so I might look at the speaker rabbit hole I went into at a later point. You can see the price here. We have a reasonable price. Where's the price? I don't see the price. Okay. And then the other item that Blue has, the comparison item, I've never actually had or owned this one, but this is the other one that is also by Blue, same company, that seems to be very popular, and I would call this a USB mic. It's like kind of you can, I guess, call this a step up from the other one, because I think it is a bit more expensive. So this seems to be a fairly standard type of mic again, and it's very easy to use. And I believe this was what I would call a USB mic as well. And so that's going to be a step up to me from a headset and, a cheap headset and a microphone type of setup. Now, then if you want to level up from basically this one to the next level up, it seems to me you got to go away from, when I looked into this, you got to go away from the standard USB type of microphone and use the other inputs. And if you go up from there, it would seem like, well, I'm at around 100 something. Like, how about I go up to like 200 something? It's like, well, no. It seems like the level up from there is like, now you're going 300 to 400, and you might need other equipment with it as well. So again, I think this is a really solid level if you're doing standard recordings and you're pretty good. At my time, when I started doing this full time, I was like, well, I'm gonna buy a good mic, a better mic, and then there's a lot of options with the step up on mic. Now, what I do is I do mainly, the podcast type of stuff. And it seems like one of the more standard type of mics there is the one that I currently use, which is this Shure SM7B mic. And this seems to be fairly standard. People have done recordings on this mic. They've used it for music type of things. and whatnot. So this one, and I guess some of the good things from what I've seen on why people use this mic is it's a really sturdy mic. I mean, you can't really, you can't really hurt this thing. It's not like a fragile thing. This thing can take some abuse. So I think if you need to move it around or travel with it and stuff, that could be, you could take it apart and move it. It's probably a fairly secure piece of equipment. If you're interviewing multiple people, it's pretty nice. Also, when you're pointing the mic, when you're using it, the mic that's being pointed towards you, you have to be pretty much right in front of it. In other words, if there's sound behind the mic, then it's nice that it doesn't pick it up. So if you're working in somewhere where you don't have a really great studio, where you don't have it completely padded off or anything, and sound bounces off the walls, this one picks up the sound right in front of it really well, and it doesn't pick up a lot of the sound if you're further away from the mic, which is actually good if you're doing kind of podcasting, especially if you have other people in the house. So this is a really common mic for interviews, and podcasters use it. Now, again, if you get to this point, so you can see the price point here. If you get to this price point, you'll get a lot of debate on what's the best mic out there and this and that. And also just note, when you look into those, there's some really smart people that talk about different mics, but they're all trying to sell you a mic. They're all trying to sell you a mic, and they're probably trying to sell, a higher price mic. So in any case, that's my experience with the mic. Now, if you use this mic, this is a step up. It's a non-USB mic now. So you got to use a cable such as this. So then I bought a cable like this, and then you have to also import it into your computer, because this isn't a computer plug. And to do that, the full package is over here. So you have this item, which is going to help you to plug it in and give you some options in terms of the settings of the microphone. And if I pull it up separately, here it is. It's this Focusrite. And this will give you kind of your settings and allow you to plug it in here, and then this will allow you to plug it in to the computer. So you've got that piece of equipment. So and again, that costs some money here. But like I say, anytime once you move away from the USB microphone, you're gonna have to purchase a piece of equipment such as that typically. Then they're also gonna have this other item here that's supposed to help you with the gain, which I actually, got that. So I kind of, lot going on if you level up from what I would call the USB mic to the next step up. And then I also got this item, which actually clamps to my desk. So there's a couple different ways you can actually mount the microphone. This works really good for me. It actually, I put this on the side of the desk, and I have a lot more maneuverability than I imagined when I first set it up. So you can experiment with that. That's actually pretty cheap to set up the mount. Note when I have a microphone such as this, if you have this kind of microphone or the blue microphone, you have to just set it on a book like in front of you. And if you're typing, like I'm typing in front of it, then it causes you to kind of crouch over and lean over to make sure that you're talking into the mic. So if you get a stand like this, it's really a lot nicer on you when you're working, because I don't have to reach over and have a cord in front of me and the microphone right there. I can adjust this thing and still be typing and not have any problems. So that setup is great. So that's kind of my experience with the microphones. This is what I'm currently using. If you want, I'll give a link to this. And again, you don't have to use the link. It is to my Amazon store. But that's where, I put the information that is the stuff I'm using. So, if you want to see what I'm using, that's fine. Again, I'm not a professional at this, but like if you start looking into the microphones, you're going to go down a rabbit hole of it gets confusing. So that's basically the steps I've gone through on it, and hope that's useful.